What is up, everybody? This is Recap Rewind. I'm JLAG.
And I'm NB.
Welcome back, girl.
Sorry, I didn't make any money for you.
That's okay. Well, what are you going to do? This episode, we are recapping and reviewing Westworld Season 2, Episode 8, and it's called Kiksuya. What did you think?
Oh my God, beautiful episode.
What?
One of the, I keep saying this, but like one of the best episodes, I think, in the entire probably series.
Yeah.
It felt like a movie completely on its own.
So self-contained,
and, like, different from Shogun, because like you guys know, like I wasn't crazy about the Shogun World episode, but this one blew me away. Like I had chills the whole time. It was so emotional.
Right.
So beautiful.
So the one thing that I will agree with you is I loved Shogun World, but the one thing that I felt with this episode, and I've been struggling with it this entire season, is laughing at moments that are real for the robots. Yes. Because at the end of the day, you know that it's like
it hits you. Yeah, it hits you, and you're like, this is not even real though.
This isn't real though. But this episode was probably the first episode outside of even Shogun World and seeing the drama with that crew, that I actually felt like emotions. I was like, damn, This is a story.
I have to say, there was also something about that whole Native Indian story and how they were introduced as like the first people in the land.
Yeah.
And then like they came in and like rejigged his whole storyline like that. Right. And that part it felt so real.
Yeah.
And it was just really emotional. I loved it. Yeah. I loved it.
Good.
Yeah.
So let's get into the episode. We'll just talk really quickly about like the character storylines really quickly. This episode centers around the leader of Ghost Nation, and his name is Akichita. Yeah. That's how it's said by Ford, at least.
And we've seen this Aki, I'm going to call him, for the sake of the podcast. We've seen him in the first episode, right, of the season?
Yes.
He was part of the, like, demo that Logan sees in the beginning, right?
Right. He was the one that was kind of like...
He was with Angela, I think.
Suited up and stuff.
Yeah, he was, like, in a suit, and he was, like, part of that whole demonstration.
Right.
And then Logan looks and he's like, oh, you're a host, too.
Yes.
So we saw him in the beginning, and now we see his whole, like, storyline, right?
Everybody's a host, yeah. So, it kind of follows him after he's kidnapped Maeve's fake daughter and brings her to this like little campsite, and he basically uses her as a means to explain to the rest of the audience like his entire story life, like his
the whole time. I'm like, why does this girl care about his story? And then I'm like, oh, okay.
She's like sitting there just be like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But so just to kind of cover off a few before we go really into his character, let's just talk about the ones that are like really quick outliers and the quick wins. The MIB shows up, so it does kind of show up with him showing up at the campgrounds. Mm-hmm. The MIB has been captured by Ghost Nation, by Akichita, so they drop him off on the floor. He's basically like half dead, like he's like 90% dead. And the daughter is very scared of him, and he has to try to like explain like the whole story that way. Right. So while he's like dead and unconscious on the floor,
the daughter, you mean like Maeve's daughter?
Maeve's daughter, sorry. And then by the end of the episode, as we know, the daughter comes in and finds
the Man in Black's daughter comes in.
This girl knows the native language, like a smart woman.
She's a G.
And she's able to actually like come through and like grab him. And he even says at one point, like, do you know your father's sickness? Like, you must know if you're his daughter. And then she was like, yeah, but I need to like take him with me. And they're like, no, he needs to be punished. And then she was like my punishment is going to be worse. It'll be worse than yours. Your punishment. So
what does that mean? What do you think that all means?
I wonder. So I'm wondering two things. One is like she's just trying to get him out of that situation, because like how else is she going to get him out of the situation? But at the same time, I feel like she's pissed. I feel like
she's definitely pissed. She's definitely pissed.
I don't know what she's gonna do to get him to learn his life at this point, because I think he's done fucked up like quite a few times. So I'm not really sure what her point is at this point, but we'll see. The next person that I want to talk about really quickly is Maeve's storyline. I don't want to get to the very end. We'll get to that with his story, but Maeve is essentially on a cold slab the entire episode. Right.
Can you just recap for me what happened to her?
Oh, did you not?
I watched it, but I forgot.
Didn't see. So she gets shot up.
Okay.
So the story maker gets away, and while she's in a shootout with the man in black, she's about to kill the man in black. She gets shot up by the cavalry with the story maker.
Okay.
And then the story maker's like, don't kill her. But like she's already been shot like 7 times.
Yeah.
So while she's dying, she gets taken away, and then
now she's at HQ.
It's
so weird to see her in that position, because I'm like, you've seen her all season as like this like superhero, superwoman like role, and I'm like, how is she weak right now? Like, girl, come through right now.
And that's what happened last episode. Dolores says that to her. She's like, for you as a woman who like knows how to fight, how did you get here? How did you even end up in this place? Because she let her emotions get to her. And then Girl, why? So she's like dying, and they're trying to operate on her. So like the story maker brings her to this certain guy, this particular guy. He's the same guy that was supposed to extract Abernathy, I think. He's like the same like tech guy. So he's like there, and he needs to like fix her up. He needs to do like diagnostics on her and stuff. But then he discovers that she's able to control hosts. Yeah. Because
he tells her, he's like, hurry the F up and save her. Like, she's the most important host right now. Right. Because the other guy was like, why am I gonna work on her right now? Like, there's like a slew of like dead hosts right now that I have to work on.
And like they're shutting everybody down. Yeah. So he's like, don't shut her down, just fix her because she's like special. Yeah. And so he realizes
where's Felix?
They like dipped. I don't know. I feel like everybody's separated. I think that like that Hector, everybody, they just like went in another direction. I have no idea where they are, these poor guys. So the surgeon guy, ends up calling Hale and says, she's important. Mm-hmm. Thanks for this win. Basically to the story maker, you have to leave now. But before that happens, the story maker and Maeve have like a really quick, like adorable, like sad moment.
He got really real. No, it was really cute to see him get that emotional, because I didn't think he would get there.
Like seeing how he was in the beginning.
Do you think he's in love with her?
I don't know if he's in love with her. I just feel like he admires her like her drive and her strength, like her motivation.
I think he's blown away by like the stories that he's created, and somehow they've gotten so attached to those stories. And I think it mind blows him like every time he sees that.
Like, and that's the thing. We always saw the story maker as like this god character who's been able to like set them on their path. But for him to realize that there's such a strength in his words and his writing, that he thought these stories were like, oh yeah, she has a daughter and like whatever. But now he's seeing these real robots live through his story. It's almost like for him, like it was a bit of a shock, I think, traveling all those worlds with Maeve and being like, oh shit,
and
like
seeing all that,
look at all these people, even seeing through Shogun, seeing like how it so deeply affected those characters. Like they're so affected that they're
you think the show has sort of tried to build similarities between Ford and
the story maker?
Lee? I think his name is Lee.
Oh, is it? Oh yeah, I think you're right.
Do you think there are similarities there? Because in a sense, like you're saying, a godlike role, Ford plays totally the godlike role 100%.
Yes, 100%.
But so does Lee. Yeah. But are there similarities to both those characters? And are we going to see, like, is that a theme that they want to play with? I wonder.
I don't know how far they're going to take it. That's a good point.
Because they are sort of playing two gods, essentially.
Yeah. I think he's just realizing his power now but what realizing his to, impact on it now.
It must lead to something
But I think
bigger.
that Ford has known all this time. That's why he's been playing it this way this whole time. So I don't even think they're on the same level. So if it's
for sure on the same level, but like Lee could maybe lead up to that, or I don't know. Yeah. Otherwise, like, what's the point of having his character around?
That's true.
And the significance of having like a screenwriter, or the story writer at least there. I don't know.
I mean, yeah.
I'm still not obsessed with his character.
Same.
I'm not. I'm just kind of wondering what his purpose is going to be.
If he doesn't get her, so what happens in the rest of this? He gets kicked out of the room. Right. The guy's like, okay, well,
which doesn't make sense to me too, because I feel like he would have higher clearance anyways.
Yeah, I don't know, but I guess because Hale's coming in to run the diagnostics or whatever, he's like, she's like, you're done. Yeah. So he can't take her with him. And so then Hale comes in, and then she realizes that she's like she's super special. Mm-hmm. So we'll get back to her at the very end, but like she knows now. Yeah. It'll be very interesting to see where that all kind of unfolds. I think that at this point in time, I'd love to see the story maker come through for her and really not just save her, but like bring her back to life and bring her to the valley somehow.
Who, Charlotte?
No, Maeve.
Saving who?
No, Maeve being saved by the Storymaker.
Oh, Lee.
Like, I feel like
Lee saving
Lee
Maeve.
needs to save Maeve. Even more than he already has.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Kiksuya. So it goes through his storylines really quickly, and he just talks about like learning about his past lives. So we also learned that he was one of the first ones to be made. He's kind of along the same lines as Dolores.
Like he's an OG.
He's an OG, like alpha dog.
Yeah.
So one of the first things that he experiences as a normal native Indian, that's like without the Ghost Nation makeup, is he's exploring, and then he finds the small town
that Dolores
where Dolores kills Arnold in the first place. And he walks into the bar in the saloon and he finds a maze, and he gets so fascinated by it. I don't know if it was like some program that was unlocked in his brain, but he just started
intrigues him.
He's so intrigued by it, but that he like starts to draw it everywhere he goes, and everyone like in his like little town is like, this guy's like glitching out. What the fuck's wrong with him? In the same vein, because he was kind of, I guess, like mellow, like the natives were mellow at that point, they decided to change them up. So they took him.
He was like a test cast almost, where they were like, this story's boring, let's like change up his character and give him like a new like purpose.
So they made him like a ruthless, silent but deadly Ghost Nation leader. So he ends up becoming that. And then but before that, just as an FYI, he has like a wife. He loves his wife.
Crazy love connection with this
crazy
woman.
love connection, like in his village, and then they reprogram him, and then he's alone again. And one of the things that he sees for the first time is he sees Logan. In the middle of the desert. So as you remember in season 1, he got like sent off with a horse. The horse ends up dying in the middle of the desert, and he's like dying of a heat stroke essentially. So
he walks up to Logan. Right? And Logan's like hallucinating. He's like heat stroke, whatever. Like he needs Gatorade. And he was basically like, this is not the real world. There's something else out there. There's more to this. He's just kind of like going off.
Right.
And he starts glitching out in that moment. He's like, wait, there's another world. Like, what is it? There must be more to this. We're not living in the right world.
Yes.
And they all sort of allude to like being underground. So they kind of do remember being in the HQ and seeing the weird people in the white clothing. And what does he say after that?
So
he goes back to the
wife. And this time around, because he wants to take him with her, he kidnaps her.
Yeah, because he's part of Ghost Nation at this point.
Right. And he takes her to the area, because I think while he finds out that thing about Logan, he finds like an area where it's like the underground. He finds that area, that same area that
I think
Dolores
it's
was taken to, the
right?
Valley Beyond or whatever is in there. So he finds that, and then he goes and finds his wife to see if he can like talk to her about to be like, we are beyond this world or whatever.
Like, can you believe me that I'm your husband? Because like she doesn't remember him.
She doesn't remember him. So then he cuts her loose, and then they like fall in love again, and they have this like really cute moment.
He takes her, right? He first kidnaps her.
Yes.
Then I think when he takes her to the desert, he tells her.
Yes. He says like,
what does he say?
Leave my heart.
That was so cute.
When I leave, like take my heart, or when she's like, when he leaves, she's like, take some of my heart, and he's like, I'll leave some with you.
Or something like that. And then she remembered right away that it was him.
And it was like, whoa! It was very emotional. This episode was so emotional,
guys. Like it was really beautiful.
And normally I'm not down for fucking
and
subtitles,
say,
but like,
oh no,
I was
it
so
totally
into
worked.
it. It was so
and like
good.
Even cinematically, like there's shots, sunsets, the desert, like it was just so pretty. It was so beautiful.
AZ life, Arizona life. So anyway, while they're running away, he's trying to like get her to the edge of the area where he found, but he can't find it again. So while he's looking, he's like out hunting for rabbits, and HQ grab her while he's away and take her away.
Because they're like, what is she doing here? Like she's out of her loop. Like she doesn't belong here.
Right. So then she's gone again. Then he's like, damn it, what the hell? So he goes on a journey and looks for looks for her. He ends up going to Sweetwater, where he gets beaten up by all the white people, basically. Yeah. And he finds the kindness of the girl. So that's how she's kind of tied into the story. She gives him water when he's like about to die. And by girl, I mean like Maeve's daughter.
Yeah.
And so then once he realizes all these things, he sees the mom.
He goes back to the tribe.
He goes back to the tribe, and he was like, this is what I learned about my life. Like, they took our people. I know that you feel something this time around.
Well, I think first he goes back there, looking for her, obviously, because she might be back home. He's like, maybe they put her back, but they replaced her.
They replaced her with a new wife. So he's like, I'm gonna kidnap her again, but like it wasn't real.
No, yeah.
And then it's also like the mom, or like the female leader of the tribe. Her son has also been replaced.
Yeah.
So
he's like, bitch, wake up, look.
He's like, don't you remember? And she was like, true, I think I do. So then he's like, don't worry, I'm gonna find out how to get in there, and so he like kills himself. He finds a way to die. So he dies as Ghost Nation, and then they're like, oh shit. That's when they realize that he's never died before. He's never been updated before.
Mans has not died in 10 years.
10 years.
Like, since they created him, he hasn't died, because to him, he figured, if I die, I'm going to forget the memories of her.
Right.
They're just going to like reprogram me, and I'm going to forget things, and I don't want to forget. So I guess he does try to stay alive in those 10 years.
He does try to stay alive. Yeah.
Which was the effing cutest thing ever.
Which is amazing. Yeah, exactly. So then he wakes up while they're trying to like update him. Yeah. They leave him, and then he has like this amazing moment. And
which I have a question about. Like, how, if they're updating him, how can he wake up?
He must have not like taken to the update. He was probably pretending to be offline or something. I don't know, because we have to
see. I have like, and that's those things confuse me.
That was one of the moments where I was like, as a woke robot at that point in time, did he have the ability that like Maeve has now?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Is that what they were trying to imply?
I think that's what they're trying to imply. Is like, I think when you look at the three major characters at this point in terms of robots, it's Maeve, Dolores, and Akishita.
Okay.
In terms of like how old they are, how long they've been in the park.
So it seems like the originals, and I feel like there's something to say about that. They said the originals were built with wires and like whatever, right? Yeah. And then the newer ones were built with like that silicone material. Right. There's something even in that too, like physically how they were actually built.
Right. Yeah. I think
know.
I just think that their mental builds were different, where they layered them versus like erased their memories. So
he doesn't go into update mode.
He doesn't go into update mode.
Wakes up,
and then he has this like beautiful moment where they're playing.
Beautiful moment. It was Nirvana's heart-shaped box.
Yes,
and it was so similar to like the Maeve scene last season,
right? When
she had where she walks through the whole lab and she's seeing all the dead hosts and like all her friends, and she's like, it's so sad.
Yeah. It really grips you. So he's on this hunt finally to find his wife. He gets to the area where they're all like standing and like idle. The ones who've been like, I guess, like glitched out and like they take them away. So he finds her in the crowd, and then he's like ready to wake her up. Like, oh, just thinking about it, I guess my heart breaks my heart. But like, she wouldn't wake up because she's like vacant. She's like gone. Yeah. And then he starts crying. And he also sees like the sun.
Oh, this scene like really broke my heart.
And so then he's like, I will. What does he say? Like, I'll come back for you.
He's like, I was so selfish with my pain. He goes, I only thought it was for me.
Right.
Like, I only thought I had this pain and this heartbreak, because he looks and he sees that like that kid's missing. Like, he's there too.
Yeah.
And he's like, so this pain is like all of ours.
All of our pain. So then he goes back to the mom, and he brings back the braid and says like, I found your son. And she breaks down. I was like, fuck, this is why. And I think
so on a bigger level, it's symbolic, obviously. Right? It's like the whole tribe was suffering too. It's like the whole people that are suffering, not just one person.
Right. It's everybody. Everybody's being affected by this. So he was like, don't worry, I'm gonna find a way to like get them back. While he's like going on his journey, he does kind of discuss this maze symbol to his people, the Ghost Nation people. And I think it's a way of reminding them that they have lived on. Like, so even when they die, like, remember that this is
he didn't want them to forget this symbol.
Right.
Right?
And it's just because it's like, just know that you come back. Like, I think they're the first people to realize that whole idea of like rebirth. And that maze is what was representative of it. So he starts to...
But he also knows that the maze is something, not a game, but he knows that there's something else to the maze. Yes. And so he tries to, he makes sure that he puts it all over the world, right, hiding it though, because he's like, I need to hide it so that they don't see that I'm writing it down or I'm drawing it or whatever, right? So he even knew that like he should be hiding it.
But he's also an idiot, because then at Maeve's house, he decides to draw one every single day in front of the house and tries to show like the daughter that he's going to be there to protect her. So that was a really important moment too, because you see his perspective now, because we always wondered what Ghost Nation's pull was, and
right, and if they were evil, if they're trying to kill me.
Exactly, because in her perspective that we've seen all this season, the last 2 seasons, it's her trying to protect her daughter from like someone killing
this
them.
Is why this show is so amazing, is because like they touch on so many freaking themes that we go through and as humans.
Subtle, and it's so subtle.
And all last season we were like, Ghost Nation's crazy, they're gonna kill Maeve, like they want to torture her. And we're looking at it through her perspective. Right. And sure enough, we find out in this episode that he was trying to save them the whole time and like communicate to them and tell them like, this is what's happening.
Like, this is the world.
You know, and she's thinking that he's going to come and kill her.
And it's so ironic, because I feel like if she just knew how to communicate with him, they would have been on the same page so long ago.
That's like real life.
That's real life. 100%. Like you don't listen, it's because like you're so worried. You don't know how to like communicate with each other. It was just such a
because
heartbreaking
he looks
moment.
Different, because like whatever.
He looks like a savage. Yeah, like, they wrote him that way. Like, it's all these crazy misconceptions. So he keeps coming to the house to see, but he keeps drawing the maze, and the maze just keeps getting bigger and bigger in front of the house. And then he says to the girl, that he wasn't the only one watching you. It was also the man in black. And that's that whole scene where we've seen Maeve, or the daughter get shot, and then Maeve walking to the middle of the maze and getting shot herself into the middle of the maze, and that's it. So that's when we all realized that whole situation happened. Yeah. The one thing that I really want to quickly ask you is, do you think that the reason why the man in black did that was because he thought that the maze had something to do with the game?
Yeah, I'm assuming.
And so like he's like, oh, there's a maze in front of this house, I need 100%. To like kill these people in the middle of this. And
otherwise what else would it be, right?
Like, why else would he go after a woman and a daughter?
It must have been that.
Like, I can only imagine that that's his only redeeming quality. Like, he was doing it because he was trying to follow the game.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think he just went and killed Maeve. Right. For sure. There's a reason why, right?
Because she dies right in the middle of the maze. So he probably like did
how ironic is that this guy trying to give her a symbol, and like that symbol leads to her death too. Like,
oh, jeez.
It's like,
that's crazy. Yeah. The symbol leads to your death. So the final big moment that he has is he sees Ford, and Ford is like set up in the middle of nowhere, and he sees all these like lights, and everybody's frozen. Like, all these natives are frozen, and he's skinning their heads and finding that they etched the maze into the scalp and then stitched it back on or whatever. So he talks to Keisha and says, you know, like, what's your situation? Like, why are you doing this? Like, where did you get this maze? Like, this was a symbol. So he knows about the symbol. He knows that it represents like Arnold and Arnold's secrets. Right. So he's like, how did you know to come to know about this? And basically Keisha's just like, I need to find out the new world. I need to find my wife. Like, he realizes that there's like a heart there. And I think also Ford is now realizing at that point in time, at least, that and I don't know how, like, when it happens, like what this timeline is, like when he's talking to Keisha, but he's older, obviously. So I'm wondering if like that was one of the breaking points for Ford to realize like these robots are emotional.
Yeah. For sure it was.
They have this like emotional tie to their past, and they're tied to like their families and like all these things. Like, when he said like, I'm here for my wife, I'm doing this for my wife, he was like, oh shit. Like, he realized things. So
he Kylie Jenner realized things. For sure.
He realized things. And so he tells Keisha, like, I think one of the coolest things too is he's like, I programmed you to be like curious. So you also realize like, one of his core like drives in life was to be curious. So like no wonder he found the maze. No wonder he found all these things.
Exploring.
But it's also the free will that they're given to figure out what to do next.
Right.
Like it's one thing to like be curious and be like, oh, what's that? You open a door. But like what do you do with that information?
Yeah, and they're persistent. They're all persistent. Dolores, Maeve, like they ain't giving up on this door.
It's
like
true.
They keep coming back to these things.
Yes. So I think that at that point in time, Ford just realized like the repercussions of like what he's been given these robots. So,
but it's interesting because I think they say this in, was it last episode or this one, where Ford, someone says it, or maybe Arnold Renard, and they were like, the hosts are the control, the guests are just the variables.
Oh, okay.
So like, does that mean that like, I'm sure it means like 10 different freaking things.
Yeah.
But that could also mean like the hosts are like the actual thing, and they're just being affected by all these guests that are coming in and out, and they're affecting them.
Right. I think for the most part that statement is true, that the hosts stay constant. I just think that there's some outliers like Akichita, Dolores, Maeve, that have somehow broken out of their loops based on what they were programmed to do.
And like with Dolores, it was that picture,
right?
That thing dropped, right?
True.
That William dropped or whatever.
Yes. So there's all these little things that kind of like glitch them out and make them start thinking about things. So the last thing that he says, Ford says to Akichita is, when the Deathbringer comes again, like take your people to the valley.
Yeah.
So when he finally finds Ford's dead body, he's like, okay, now it's time to go.
Like it was her.
So that was the Deathbringer. It was the Deathbringer. So that's when he realizes like now he's on a mish.
Yeah.
So that's his mish now. And that's what he's explaining to this 2-year-old girl.
The whole time he's like talking to her.
And he's like, now do you realize? And she's like, where's my mom?
Yeah.
Like, where's my real mom? Where's my fake mom?
It was cool because like I didn't know where they were going with it. I was like, is he in love with Maeve's character? Like, were they in love in a past life, or like is she like his daughter from another like past life? But then I'm like, okay, no, it makes sense, and it's so cute.
It's so cute,
and I believe it.
I believe all of it. So by the end of it, it cuts back and forth to Maeve. So we'll go back to Maeve really quickly. And like I said, Hale finds out that she's like powerful or whatever.
Like, yeah.
But then she starts reading the script, and he's like, the guy's telling her like she's able to communicate with other hosts.
She's in the mesh network or whatever it's called.
Then she was like, but she's doing it right now. She's like, who the fuck is she talking to right now? And then it cuts back to
I love the scene. The way they did this was really cool.
It was amazing. Like, these just like forward shots. And so she's talking to Akichita, and he's telling her, you know, like, we'll protect your daughter, but if you survive, like, come through, like find us, but if you don't, then like have a good death, like have a peaceful death. And it was just like, oh god, it's so emotional. It was really sad.
Was she also talking to the daughter through him?
Yes,
because he was saying like, I tried to protect you as much as I could or something, right?
Is that what he says? Yeah, maybe.
He's
I
like,
don't know.
So I was like, is she talking to the daughter through him?
I don't know. Maybe he's just trying to like have that conversation with her and be like, yo, this is what I've been trying to do.
Yeah. Because after, for sure, it was like between the two of them, but like having the daughter there too, I was like, oh, she's telling her like, I love you. Like, goodbye if I don't ever see you again. It was so effing sad.
Yeah, because like she uses the same line that he uses with his wife in the beginning, where he's like, take my heart and take it with you or whatever. It's like so emotional, and that's how the episode ends. Yeah. So good.
It was so good.
It was definitely a change from like what we're used to. Obviously, there was no like gunslinging and like, you know, like running around and shooting,
which
Dolores
I didn't mind
and
at
whatever.
all. Like, I loved it.
It was such a great break from all of that.
I have to say, 98% of that is in the writing, because the writing is so freaking gripping. It's so emotional. It's effing beautiful. Like every single line he had in this episode was like epic. It gave me chills. I don't know, like, it's just beautiful. It's like poetic. Like every single line was like beautiful.
Yeah, and it was just like you said, very well shot. Just like I was so gripped by how it looked and his story.
And his acting was amazing too. Like it's really, I don't know, man. This show is so effing good. Like it's just so good.
So yeah, and after this episode, we have like 2 more episodes left, 9 and 10, and then it's done. So it was a great way to kind of start closing out the season, because we've been asking this entire time, like, what's the story with Ghost Nation? What's the story? Like, what's his drive? What are they up to? So now we kind of know that everyone's on the same. Like we were saying
together, like we were like, we kind of expected it a little like this. Like we were always like, Ghost Nation must be good. They're just like a misconstrued like group of guys that like have just a bad rap.
Yeah, we've been saying
it kind of, and it's kind of been like that too. So
like they just want to
Maeve just seeing the wrong, mixing up her visions, I think, is what was happening.
Right. And her not realizing like he was there to protect them.
Yeah.
But also you couldn't communicate that. All right, let's get into our
recap roundups.
Best moment. My best moment is gonna go to the Nirvana heart-shaped box sequence with Ake.
Oh yeah.
And like how he woke up and like walked through the HQ, just because the similarities to Maeve's, and like just the music too, and like he saw his wife, so and like powerful scene. Yeah. Like I love when music takes over.
Right.
And I know obviously the visuals are like powerful too, but like the song was like everything too in that moment. I just loved it.
So good. So that was one of my favorite moments as well. But mine, I'll choose the final moment was also extremely powerful. And just watching, like you said, that cut back and forth between their faces, and just like the fact that they're almost looking at each other through their own minds was so emotional. And so
now they're talking done. Like, why weren't you guys communicating before? And I think that's the sad thing too, was like, not that it's too late, because I don't think Maeve is dead, but the sad part was like, you guys are communicating so perfectly now. Like, I wish this was happening like before.
Yeah, totally. You know? Totally.
And their connection is beyond just a love connection. There's something more powerful.
Yeah.
It would have been kind of cheesy if it was like they were soulmates. No, they're not just soulmates. They're like, there is this human, quote unquote human connection between these two characters.
They understand the emotional
their stories
drive.
Don't really link up, but there's something emotional that's attaching them to each other.
Yeah.
That's like really beautiful. And like,
and I think that's the most beautiful thing about Maeve's storyline in general. She's meeting all these people, and like it's really opening up her mind to like seeing things in a different way. Like from seeing Shogun World and experiencing that with her, mirror, and then meeting this guy and realizing like he was there to protect them all along. She's starting to like realize that there's so much more to the world than just what is on the surface.
Right.
So if anybody right now, she's the one that's kind of really understanding the core of humanity in these robots, which is crazy.
WTF moment. I wasn't shocked really, but I would have to say maybe the fact that Maeve and Ake were talking the entire time. Like that they were able to talk
by
to
the
each
very
other.
end.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't really have like a what the F moment though.
Right. I didn't have a WTF moment either. I was looking,
like
I
had
watched
really
the episode again.
Beautiful moments, yes, but nothing really like shocking.
The only WTF moment that I kind of could say is her seeing Logan. Or him seeing Logan.
True, the Logan like
because I was like, oh, okay, they tied that in.
Yeah,
why? But like, was that the only reason why he started to like look for things?
Yeah.
Like, I think that it just goes, it feeds into the idea that he's a curious man, but like kind of throwing Logan into that story, I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like we see him again. We kind of like are tying like how he got out of this world.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
MVP. My MVP is gonna go to Ake because I think he just was
Akeisha for the win.
I think he was like one of the most subtle kind of storylines so far, but like I think he completely like took over the season. Like this episode will go down in like their whole history as like one of the best episodes. I think it literally felt like a movie. Like it didn't even feel like Westworld.
Yeah.
LVP.
I didn't have one, but I had to choose, so I'm gonna say Lee.
Okay.
Just because I felt like he didn't do enough. I felt like he gave up when the guy said like get the F out. He's like, okay, I'll get out. Like, homie, like you are like the story writer. Like just stay in there or do something more. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will end up doing something. But like I was just kind of like, you didn't do much though.
Right. I mean, and I guess at that point I would agree with you. But at this point, I wanted to choose the MIB for the 17th time in a row. Just because I feel like he's just been LVP this entire season.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, I'm wondering whether or not he's going to get a redemption moment at all. Like, I think that at this point, they're painting him so dark and so, like, soulless that him even getting picked up by his daughter, I'm like, okay, I don't care anymore. Do you think he'll make it to the third season? I want him to, but at this point, I don't know, like, what he's going to do. Like, is he going to try to fix things? Is he going to try to help the robots?
Definitely
I don't know.
I don't think they'll waste his character. Like, he definitely has to make it up before he dies. So. Exactly. But I don't know if I want him to be in the season 3. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm ready for his story and his journey to end. And maybe it starts with his daughter, like, next season. Through. You know what I mean?
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'm into that.
The best line.
What was your best line?
My best line, and it's really sad, but it was from Ake, and he says, I had searched everywhere for my love except the other side of death.
I know, it's so
effing sad. Like, what does that even mean? But like, also, like, I know what it meant to him.
It meant, like,
because that meant, like, he had to kill himself to go back to HQ to, like, find her back there.
Right.
But, like, obviously in a greater, like, thing.
Like, he literally realized death by trying to search for his wife.
Yeah.
Like,
and, like, also in real life, like, if your, like, soulmate dies, like,
what do you do?
To meet them, you have to die, too. So, like, it's just so...
it's so sad.
Sad.
Very emotional.
Like, those were the kind of lines, guys. Like, those were the kind of lines they delivered. Like, I was gonna yak at how good the writing was. Like,
and it
was
could
so
only
good.
be given to this story, and it was just perfect for that reason. Mine is from Akisha as well, because he just killed it with the lines. But it's him talking to the girl, and he says, I wanted to warn you, but in this world it's easy to misunderstand intentions. And it's just like what we were talking about earlier.
Real life.
You know, it's just like not being able to understand or talk to each other and be able to have those conversations just because you look different or are different.
Or because you've been told that this is your story, and so you're gonna go down this road, and I'm gonna go down this road, and like this whole show is like
learning about
like the world, a human being, 100%.
Yeah.
And like just the different themes that they like explore.
And this theme in particular was so well done. It wasn't like, make sure you talk to each other. It was like,
no, yeah.
It was like, this is what happened, and this is why.
The writing is so good.
All right, so that's the end of the episode, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know what you guys think about this episode. Let us know what you guys are thinking about this season. It's coming to a close soon.
I'm ready for it to be done.
Same.
To be honest, because I really want to like take the season, look at it all, what happened in the end, and kind of just like recircle back and like kind of talk to you even maybe offline or whatever, and just like be like, okay, this is what this whole season meant, because it was confusing AF. Okay, those timelines are confusing me.
Yeah. So now we're finally like kind of caught up.
I'm ready for it to be done.
Yeah. Totally.
But it's been beautiful. So.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
That's it.
Bye.